Welcome to the first ever episode of the Guitar Power Hour, sponsored by Rock Life Music Academy, with me, your host, Alex Boccia. This show is focused on interviewing accomplished Denver-based guitar players on what their experience was like learning guitar and what steps they took to become proficient at the guitar. The goal is to provide listeners with new ideas and insights that will help them to improve their own abilities on their instrument, as well as to inspire anyone who is interested in learning the guitar to start doing it. In addition, we hope to help promote and strengthen the Denver, Colorado music scene. Our guest today is Kyle Kaliszewski of the band 40 Fathoms, a popular metalcore band in the Denver area who is on tour now. Also, I apologize for the occasional slight static from some mic cable problems we had. But anyway, let's get to it. So how old were you when you got started?
You know, it's kind of up in the air.
This is up for debate.
Well, I wanted to start when I was younger, because my dad's played my whole life. I remember always having a guitar around, but never really sitting and playing it seriously.
So what would you do with it? Just like kind of hit the strings or something?
It would sit there, and yeah, I'd hit the strings. Because I started off playing drums and percussion, really.
Oh, really?
More seriously, yeah.
How old was that then?
I was in 4th grade, and I was in the school band, yeah. Oh. So I would have been 9. I wanted to do saxophone, and my throat or lungs weren't strong enough to blow into the saxophone, so I went with percussion, which ultimately was way cooler, I think.
Yeah.
It benefited me more.
So that was what, snare and toms?
Well, we started out on bells, like xylophone.
Oh, okay.
You had to earn playing snare drum or bass drum.
Really?
Yeah.
So I would think that xylophone would be harder.
It was. Well, it made it so I learned, notes and scales, which was probably the most beneficial of it.
Right.
And then, working your way up. We didn't really have first chair, second chair in elementary school,
right.
But
everybody was third chair.
Yeah. But working your way up and earning the drums and the actual rhythm and percussion part of it.
Yeah.
So I did that from 4th through 6th grade. I kept doing it in 7th and 8th as well, but in 7th grade, I decided I wanted to play the bass guitar in jazz band. So I moved to...
Was that like more or less like what you thought would be the practical thing to do with bass, or did you really want to do that?
I wanted to do guitar more, but I didn't really know how to read guitar on sheet music, whereas bass I could read single notes,
Yeah.
Easier to read.
Because of the xylophone.
And I wasn't that good at playing chords or anything yet, so I played bass through middle school. And then I'd say after that, once I started high school, so 14 years old is when I really picked up the guitar.
Okay. How long were you playing the bass actively before the guitar?
Only 2 years. Once I started really playing guitar, it wasn't conventional, standard tunings or anything. I started pretty much on drop tunings. Well, I always had an acoustic laying around, which I never put in drop. So I was still playing both standard and drop tuning. Okay, so an interesting thing about you is that your dad is a guitar instructor and owns his own business for that now.
I'm not really too sure, and this is important to keep in mind as we're talking about the rest of this stuff, because that's a really unique opportunity you had in the process of learning guitar. I'm not sure, and I'm sure you'll mention it, how much that played a role in your learning or not, but you had that resource there, which is unusual, at least compared to most people. What were his thoughts on you picking up the guitar and lessons and stuff?
He never forced me to do lessons or anything, but it was more if I ever had questions or techniques I wanted to learn or anything, he was there to show me.
It's interesting because, since he offers lessons, he obviously knows the benefit of it.
Yeah.
So is it more like I just want to let you decide what to do sort of thing?
It was more that, yeah, I take it kind of at my own pace, If he's going to be giving me lessons, it's that I got to treat it like a lesson.
Right.
I wasn't really doing that. As a young kid, there's so many other things I want to be doing too.
Yeah.
Trying to figure out exactly what it is I want to do.
Right.
So
the reason I brought that up was because of the drop D tuning. I was wondering if he showed you that or how you came across that.
He showed me drop D, yeah. That was really early on. He showed me that.
And he was just kind of like, hey, check this out.
This is just another technique, another style, yeah. I guess I was a little younger than 14. I was probably 13. And I would I started in standard tuning, and I'd try to write, basic rock songs, and then I started getting into punk rock, which is still using standard.
Like, which kind of punk rock at that point? Was it more like what was popular at the time, or?
Well, that was...
Punk rock's like metal.
Right. I went to my first Warped tour after 8th grade. That's what blossomed into listening to metal. Because, there'd be metal bands at Warped Tour, too. I made it a thing where I went every year after that.
Which is cool, because you guys ended up playing it.
Yeah.
2 or 3 years?
In my first band I was in, we played it once. And then, that was called Thanks to You. And then with 40 Fathoms, we played it twice.
And that first band was with the same guys, basically, as 40 Fathoms?
Pretty much, yeah. Same core. But then I learned that all these metal bands are playing drop.
The drop tunings.
Because it's just that style, It's... I don't know that it's easier. It is, in a sense, but...
So, kind of what I was curious about, because it's really interesting to me how someone comes across drop D tuning, like, especially at that time, like, it was kind of really starting to get popular then.
Yeah.
And I don't think that the word had, like... was really widespread necessarily. Like, now it's like totally common.
Right.
I think people that even know a little bit about guitar know about it now. But at the time, like,
well,
it
now
didn't seem
it's
too common
just,
to me.
It's almost expected now within metal.
Totally. How low can you go?
And that's another big trend. Yeah, how low.
Yeah. Okay, so you always wanted to be in the band, but how much was that a part of, like, what you kind of were getting into the guitar for? Were you kind of like, okay, I'm going to learn the guitar because I want to get a band going, or?
I don't know. I always just liked playing music, and having a band just made the most sense.
Yeah.
And that's what I
was it
doing.
Was it a big part of you, like, your reason to starting the guitar, to focus on the guitar more, though?
Probably. I don't know. Honestly, I didn't really become that good of a guitar player until the past, 6 years.
Because the band
really
kind of
when I
forced you into
started
that.
40 Fathoms.
Yeah.
Because I got the boot from the band previous to that because I wasn't, I guess, good enough or trying hard enough is probably a better way to put it.
And your dad told me about that
So
once.
when
that
that
motivated
happened,
you.
it motivated me to get a lot better.
Yeah.
Which I did.
So an interesting point. So I think what we're trying to say here is get in a band and get kicked out because you weren't good enough, and then you will get better.
That was part of why I got kicked out.
Well, let's get the whole thing, man, so that people can take your path here.
Well,
I'm just
I mean, drink way too much before your shows.
All right, another part of the key. Drink lots of root beer.
Yes.
That's what it was, right?
Something like that.
Yeah, that's what I figured. So then, what kind of stuff did you find yourself working on then? Like, when were you learning songs mostly at that point?
I've never really learned a lot of songs.
So it's mostly
it's
the writing.
always been, just kind of jamming and messing with my own stuff.
Some people, they have no, like, concept of writing a song.
Right.
Like you said, it kind of came natural to you.
Well, it's definitely, you learn how to do it better.
Do it better. But some people don't even have, like a shred to start with.
Where to start, yeah. I think I always knew that a song should have a good structure or formula to it, verse, chorus, verse, chorus, and started out just doing really basic chord progressions within those. And
you said it was kind of like standard rock stuff you started with?
That's what I started trying to do, just like, I don't know, trying to play music like The Strokes or like, I don't even know.
The Hives, they were kind of big then?
Hives, yeah. Just
that kind of like rock.
Just really basic.
Era of rock and roll on the radio at that time?
Yeah, White Stripes.
Yeah.
Stuff like that.
Is that what you listened to?
I think. This would be 8th grade. I know I was really into The Strokes. I've always loved the Goo Goo Dolls. I was into like Weird Al too, so that doesn't make a difference for songwriting. But yeah, I was just kind of into that MTV rock of that era. What was played on alternative radio, I think my dad and I used to listen to System of a Down a lot.
Oh, okay.
So Linkin Park kind of had those heavier influences in there.
Yeah.
Without realizing they were really heavy at the time.
And which is funny because that's kind of coming back to the mainstream now.
Yeah.
It's been that 15-year cycle somewhere around there and it's coming back again. So you're getting out of that, what was the name of that band again?
Thanks to You.
Thanks to You. So that your high school band, basically.
Yeah.
And
well, the funny thing is I fought so hard to be in the band and then to...
Initially?
Yeah.
Before being in the band?
And then
like
to tumble down
the
path I did with it.
So then, along the way of being in that band, was that like a common theme of like you not being good enough, or was that something that was kind of brewing?
Not really. I think it brewed later on.
Because the band was
and
getting
it
better.
seemed like
I
I was more like that, and it seemed like I was more into just partying at shows than putting in effort.
Which you're good at, though.
Thank you. But it was more.
I think that strength might have been a little overlooked there.
Yeah. But it was just looked at like I wasn't trying hard enough in the writing and kind of just taking advantage of it to be able to play shows.
Yeah, yeah.
So
for the party at that point, sort of thing. Yeah.
All in it for the ride.
Yeah.
So.
True rock star style-y.
I started early. But yeah, so getting out of that is a big drive of why I got better.
Okay, so now you're out of that. Was that like instantly you're like, okay, I'm going to get back into this, or?
Yeah, because I had always tried writing my own. I wrote my own stuff before I was in that band because I hung out with that group. So I was always showing them my metal songs or whatever that I could write and see what they thought. So I kept doing that after I was out. And then...
kind of like hoping that maybe they'll dig it again or something? Or
that was certainly part of it.
Okay, yeah.
And just because I had to be doing something for myself.
Sure.
And it wasn't probably but 5 months later when they said they were done and the singer Taylor was coming to me saying, let's start something.
Cool. And was that kind of like the idea was to go with the style that you guys...
We started 40 Fathoms with the idea that we wanted to be really heavy, a lot of riffs and breakdowns, but then have singing choruses. And we thought that would make us popular.
Yeah, okay. Well, it worked.
Like, we wanted to be, like, deathcore, though, like, a lot heavier. And it ended up being metalcore, which...
Was it only metalcore because you just couldn't, for some reason, be
just
heavy
what
enough?
I wrote.
Oh, okay.
It's just the riffs I wrote, and I didn't really... It's just what was coming out.
So then, at that point, were you really listening to that stuff a lot?
I mean, yeah, there was a lot of heavy music. That was primarily what I listened to for a long time.
Even up to that point? Okay. Name some bands that at the time were...
There was one band that we were trying to be like Miss May I was one of them. I don't know. I guess when it comes to deathcore or death metal, I never listened to it a lot. We just wanted to be really heavy but with singing choruses. So like Still Remains or Haste the Day or As I Lay Dying.
Yeah.
Those were the bands we ended up kind of sounding like.
Autumn to Ashes.
Autumn to Ashes. Yeah. They were sweet. Or The Devil Wears Prada even.
Right, okay.
So... yeah, I just started writing riff after riff and heavy breakdowns, and then we've always been decent at writing catchy choruses, so we'd slip those in.
So then this, relating your motivation to become a better guitar player to all of this, how did that play out through this process of getting out of the band and then getting back into the band? And like, basically, I guess... I know that you said like being in that band because of, and this is one of the things that I really respect you for as a guitar player, because it's just one of the things I'm blown away by the guitar players in that style in general.
Yeah. And
then you do it really well, where you got just some super clean, complex rhythms, and you're doing them super clean, super controlled, and you guys are going crazy on stage, and it still comes out sounding that way. So clearly that's something that's not super challenging. And then I just think it's really difficult to like keep your rhythms straight where you're at, but then like not accidentally playing a rhythm from another song.
Gotcha. Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Like a complex breakdown or something.
Yep. Exactly. So like so it's a difficult thing to do for sure.
That was something we've worked really hard on doing too. Like we said, let's make our songs faster. So I would sit down there and write a riff and then not record it until I could play it the appropriate speed.
So you're just sitting there like playing the riff over and over again?
Yeah.
Was there even more to that? Did you like break it down and like focus on like certain spots or?
Some riffs, yeah, absolutely.
And like would it even be sometimes you would just sit there with your right hand and just or would you still be kind of playing the riff with the left hand too, or?
I guess from time to time. If it was a really complex riff, I'd kind of just work it in pieces until I could do something complex.
Yeah.
And be able to go to the next part easily and smoothly. I don't know, yeah, just doing it over and over was that. And then when it came to a breakdown, yeah, I'd sit there and go, okay, well, I can make this cooler probably. Well, actually, what I used to do is I'd program the drums in GarageBand, and then I'd move the kick around to a random spot, and then just kind of place them in there randomly and say, press play, see if it sounds like a cool rhythm.
Yeah.
And then learn the rhythm based off of however I randomly put it in there.
Yeah. And see, I think that, I don't know, so how did you think of that? I mean, did your dad have that and you kind of like were able to figure it out with your dad's help, or?
With what?
The GarageBand part of it.
Oh, that was just me.
So you guys just had it on the computer and just like, I'm just going to check this out and figure out how to use this?
Well, I wanted a Mac, that way I could have GarageBand and record songs.
Oh, okay.
And with that background also in percussion and drumming, that has always helped me with writing rhythmically interesting riffs.
Yeah. As well as probably the timing.
Exactly, yeah.
So, would you say that what you ended up doing later, like it would get more and more complex?
You mean when it comes to writing songs?
Yeah, like at least those particular rhythm parts. Would the rhythm parts get more complex?
I always tried to make them complex, but still listenable and catchy. So, I mean, I wasn't trying to be a technical player by any means, because I think it becomes a little boring to listen to if there's just too much going on.
Yeah, like math metal
right.
level.
Yeah. So, I mean, yeah, I always tried to make them interesting is a word I'd use rather than more complex.
Well, I think one of the complex parts, too, is not... I mean, I think inevitably you develop your own style, so in that regard you repeat yourself, but not repeating yourself so closely that it's like the same song.
Right.
So even though if like one song's rhythm isn't like very complex, the process of coming up with a different rhythm, you have to get to know the rhythm that you came up with before so well that you don't repeat it.
So it doesn't sound like the same song
too close,
over and over again. Yeah.
And especially when you're working with something like, that's one of the things that's really intriguing to me about that type of metal and other styles of music that have the same sort of quality, although maybe not the same sound, is how like blues. I really don't like listening to blues too much.
Right.
But the players that create their own sound out of something so basic, it's really intriguing to me.
Yeah.
Because you got less to work with there.
True.
And you guys are doing riffs that are usually using some sort of variation on a minor scale or something.
Right.
And then you're a lot of times you're sitting on one note, chugging this rhythm away.
Yeah.
So you're not even changing notes sometimes.
Exactly.
So your rhythms...
That's when you have to make the rhythm interesting.
Yeah, exactly.
If you're going to stick on one note.
And I think that's a hard thing to do. I think that's a challenging thing to do. At least enough. You do it for one or two songs, okay, maybe not.
Yeah.
But then you got to set yourself apart from the other bands out there.
Right.
And set your songs apart from each other.
Exactly.
So...
But you have to have them sound...
It's challenging.
But you can't set yourself too far apart.
Right.
Because you have to have a relatable sound.
Right.
That people are gonna like.
Yeah, and you're trying to keep it a
It's
certain
like,
thing.
cool, I gotta sound different from this band, but sound similar to the sound,
right.
the genre.
Right. One of the great debates is like to take lessons or not take lessons.
Right.
Some people find out years down the road, oh, I should have taken lessons. Some people never have to worry about that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you had your dad to help show you some stuff.
Right.
This day and age, I would imagine the stuff your dad showed you probably could be substituted for a YouTube video at this point. I mean, not that anything can replace your old man.
No, I get what you're saying.
But it probably wasn't anything like too in depth. From
It wasn't, and especially for me getting into metal writing, he taught me some techniques on how to be faster. But honestly, I'm pretty much self-taught when it comes to the style I write because he doesn't know about that. He's a completely different style.
Yeah.
So,
and even his metal back in the day was a very different thing then.
Yes.
When he was doing metal stuff.
Yeah.
So, how did you discover then these things that were going to... I know, obviously it sounds like it was out of necessity more than anything. You were in a situation where you had to get better if you were going to get back in with that band, or probably even with any other band. You didn't want that to happen again. So you were motivated to get better. So you had that motivation. Now what about like on the technical end of things? Since you didn't have anybody showing you, how did you discover these things that you were going to have to do? Like, did you, sometimes people get stuck on something and like they want to do it, they want to get better, they got the motivation, but they just can't figure it out. I mean, did you have moments like that, or?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, for a long time, I had a lot of trouble with up and down strokes, like hitting the low string in between a higher string to make it give it that.
Oh, okay. See, that's a lot of thought. Like, that's fine detail that for you as a very important one because you thought of it. But
I'd watch other people doing that and be like, okay, I can't do that, but I need to learn how to do it.
How did you see that?
Watching other guitarists, hearing what they're doing, and then watching to see how they're doing it. Obviously, they're hitting that bass note in between every high note. But how are they doing it so well? And then just sitting there figuring out how to make it sound clean.
And this whole thing was just natural for you to go and seek that out?
Kinda, yeah.
You just didn't really think twice about it. You're just like, you're just watching videos and you just kind of started looking for that.
Or at shows, watching the guitarists and their techniques.
Was it mostly shows or?
I'd say mostly shows, yeah.
Interesting, cool. So was YouTube not yet as much of a thing at that time?
It was just starting to get really popular, but I never thought to use it as...
You weren't in the habit of that yet, or people in general maybe weren't in the habit of that at that time yet.
Yeah.
So I think that is also a really good point. Like, at least working to the point where you're going to have those obstacles and those struggles.
Yeah.
And then making it a point to actually look for those things any opportunity you can, even at a live show. I don't think most people are looking at guitar players being like, how does he do that, And some people probably should. They probably could learn a thing or two that they were trying to get better at if they actually watch for that.
I think it's one of the best ways to learn something is by studying someone else who's good at what they do that you enjoy.
Yeah. But looking that close, though.
Yeah. I mean, I notice a lot of small detail, too. I don't know that everyone's like that. I'm kind of anal about things like that.
Which could be beyond a necessary point, maybe not.
Isn't.
There's a certain amount of that is good probably for anybody.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that for you, that's just more a natural trait, but so you didn't have to think twice about it.
Right.
Does that sound about right?
Yeah.
You just kind of naturally like look for those fine details.
Yeah.
So then other people I think that'd be a good thing for them if it's not a natural thing to start trying to incorporate that approach into their learning, where they're really like, I don't know, like maybe, I don't know, not zooming in, but, I don't know, literally getting your eyes closer to the screen.
Yeah.
With if you're watching, like, I don't know, say a live DVD of whatever band you're into, and, when they do a close-up on the guitar player, like, I don't know, really looking close.
Yeah.
Zoomed in, full screen, whatever. And watching for those details you're talking about.
I'd even take it beyond that, though, too. I try to pay attention to everyone in the band when I go to a show, which I don't think is something a lot of people do. Like, most people watch the singer for obvious reasons. Yeah. It's the front man,
Yeah.
But I think it's pretty beneficial as a musician or songwriter to watch everyone, see what they're doing, if that's the best way to learn. If you are into learning songs by other bands, that's definitely going to be the best way, instead of listening to it and, if you could figure it out easy enough, you can listen to it and notate it. But if there's something really difficult you don't get, watch them.
Yeah.
And it's just way more entertaining to watch every member instead of just one.
Yeah. Yeah, I was going to say, because you did specifically say live show.
Yeah.
As opposed to just listening to the recording. Like, actually go out and, like, see it happen in front of you.
Yeah.
So then, it was really just, like, the increasing difficulty of the songwriting that started getting your skills requiring to get better. And were there, like, unexpected things that happened along that process for you?
Yeah, I got a weird shaped forearm on my right arm compared to my left one. From picking really fast, it goes up farther to my wrist.
Yeah.
But I don't know, that's a joke kind of, but unexpected?
Like, were there moments where you just, like, something clicked and you weren't, like, expecting it? It was just, like, all of a sudden, like,
kind of that one thing I was talking about, like the
figuring the downs and the up
alternate
stuff.
up-down picking.
Yeah.
You don't realize it until you do it, but you notice yourself getting better because you're practicing more. It's something that's such a no-brainer thing to say, but it is something you don't realize is happening until you sit back and go, wow, 2 months ago I couldn't do that. I am getting better. Doesn't feel like I'm getting better, but listening, I can tell I'm getting better.
Yeah, after enough time has passed, you can compare by a recording you might have done, or which also I think is another really useful tool, because I think that's one of the things. Honestly, I'm always trying to discover new things, and that's part of why I like having these conversations, because these are things like I'm definitely learning when I have these conversations myself.
Yeah.
And that's interesting, because everybody's approach is different, but there's definitely some core things that are pretty much going to help anybody, that I think anybody, whether you're taking lessons or you're not taking lessons, like, it's good things to do. So you had some recordings of yourself because you had the garage band and you were writing songs. And
that's how I write songs too. I'll record a riff, and I'll think, okay, well, what's going to sound cool next? So I kind of write songs in pieces,
Yeah.
And
so that technology is playing a big part.
Absolutely.
And not just like a part, like, it's not just as much as like now you have something to show somebody else. You're learning as you do that, because you listen back to your own playing and you're like, ooh, that wasn't so good.
But I should probably,
I know what I need to do better now.
But then it also helps to build on it too. So you come up with a riff, right? And I could say, okay, well, what's going to make this sound cooler? Do I just double it? Can I harmonize it? Do I put a different lead over it?
Which you couldn't do sitting there by yourself without that.
Exactly. It's beautiful.
So now you're looking at music in a new way.
Yeah.
And you're probably considering a bunch of different things as well in that process, because you have the time to try out different things.
Well, and that's the most important thing, is try everything.
Yeah.
Even if you don't like the idea, you don't know until you actually try it, and it may end up way cooler than your original idea.
Yeah. And don't be afraid to play something that might suck, like, even if you're just kind of like improvising, because I'll sit down and I'll come up with stuff that is way cooler. Like, sometimes I'll just throw on that first layer of whatever I recorded, and I'll just play randomly over it. I don't even have an idea.
Exactly.
Yeah, and then sometimes some of the coolest ideas will come out of that. Again, something that you wouldn't really be able to do otherwise. I mean, you got loop pedals, which can kind of do that same sort of thing, and those are cool, but some sort of technology that gives you that capability. However, I think one of the things that I've noticed as being difficult for a lot of people that actually do have that technology is making themselves sit down and actually use it and learn to use it. So, what was that like for you? And was that difficult? And what did you do to learn?
I had some background. So I originally had sonar.
I used Cakewalk too originally.
What?
I used Cakewalk too originally.
Yeah, but I had my dad walk me through the basics of that.
Right.
So I used that for a couple years, and then when I got the MacBook, it had GarageBand. And GarageBand is really user friendly. They make it so anyone
it's supposed to be that way, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So
typical Apple there, maybe.
Yeah. So it really wasn't that bad. I had the background of some advanced things that you could still do within GarageBand.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, for the most part, it's really easy. I'm going to get Logic soon, so that'll be a completely different story learning.
But you'll have those more advanced things you could do.
Exactly.
That you didn't need to do at the time. Before.
Right.
Which is why GarageBand was simple to do something simple.
Yeah.
So, so then, the other thing I was going to say with that is, because I started talking about...
You're saying just sitting down and doing it.
Yeah.
Learning it.
Yeah. So it was easier to use. But, did you ever get that... Because even I still get this sometimes. Maybe you still do as well. But at least at that time, like, kind of like some sort of approach anxiety where it was like, you had the idea, like, I should probably sit down and work on that. And then you're just like, I guess procrastination's a better word with that sort of thing.
I'm going through that right now.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, that's
it
why
always happens, for sure.
I've got a particularly bigger issue with that these days.
Yeah.
I think it's because of other responsibilities, but back at that time, like, I didn't have that. I couldn't wait to sit down and do it again. Was that kind of what it was for you?
I think there's phases.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's definitely times where I'd have an idea and I'm in the car. I'm like, oh, I gotta get home quick so I can lay this down. And then, a song would flow out just because I'm so into the one riff idea I had.
Yeah.
And then there'll be another time where it's like, okay, I gotta get this riff down. I start it, and then I have no idea where to take it, and I sit there for a few hours, either getting frustrated and going, okay, I'll get on my phone for a while now, to, okay, I need to get back to this. I still have no idea where it's going. All right, shut the computer.
Did you have some sort of, like, way to get yourself to just do it when you weren't otherwise motivated to?
Well, deadlines always help.
So deadlines would be for, how would you set those? That is a good idea.
Well, if I was writing songs for 40 Fathoms, and we say we're going to the studio, then, we have studio dates booked. We need to write this many songs and choose which ones we're going to record.
Yeah.
So, there was one for our full length. We wrote like 25 songs. Picked the best ones out of all those.
So then,
and that was definitely like, okay, we need to get this done. It's getting down to crunch time. We have a month left. We still need to pick 3 songs.
Did you have any issues with, like, I guess you could call it writer's block or lack of creativity? And did you have to extend those deadlines? Was that okay to do?
Some deadlines you can, because that's the other thing. Sometimes you can't just force yourself to write, because nothing good is going to come if you're forcing yourself.
It sounds forced.
Exactly. And, if that song gets chosen for the album, it's usually the worst one.
That being said, sometimes What are you talking about in terms of creativity? If you're not feeling creative,
yeah,
as opposed to just not feeling like sitting down and doing it.
Oh, so you're saying, okay, not feeling like sitting down and doing it.
Well, I guess both. Yeah.
Yeah, because there is a fine line in between those.
Sometimes you do have to force yourself, but then if you're just not feeling creative, though,
yeah,
don't force
there's
that.
nothing you can do about
if you don't have that inspiration or whatever.
Yeah.
I guess you could go out and seek some experience that might give you that inspiration.
If you know where to find it, yeah.
Live shows are good.
They are.
Trying to find something very different musically. I think it's actually an interesting topic. Because you don't necessarily know where you're going to find it.
Right.
What about in that style of music? How would you guys find that? What would be your biggest source of inspiration when writing that metalcore stuff? Obviously, you like the style and everything, but...
Well, it has to be fun to do live, because that's the best part of...
So you kind of imagine playing it in a live scenario, and you're like kind of using that as a
Yeah,
gauge?
if it can get me pumped up, and that means it's probably going to get other people pumped up.
That's a really good idea.
So just, listen to something else that pumps you up and say, okay, what can I do like this?
Yeah.
But not copy this.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
I think that would be the hardest part for me is writing that stuff. Is just feeling like I could. It's a big struggle to stay. Well, I just kind of imagine. Actually, I don't want to say it is because never really try to write that type of stuff. I guess, but and the same can be true with other styles.
Yeah.
For sure. But like blues, like I was saying, or even country, just something that's pretty like structurally mainstream.
Yeah.
But has been around long enough because that stuff evolved out of so many years of other stuff. So to be able to be not something overly complicated, like we were saying, to where now you're just completely something different, and to still keep it fresh, I think that's a really hard thing.
Yeah.
And in your guys' style,
that's why
I feel like that would be something I'd struggle with if I tried to do it.
Well, that's why too. I think it's important for a band to grow, and that's certainly why we did anyway. We didn't want to make another album that sounded exactly the same.
Yeah.
So it's trying to evolve the sound as well as still stay similar. It's like, well, for our last one, we didn't write any breakdowns at all.
Oh, okay.
Because it was just getting boring and seemed like an excuse. I can't think of anything good to put here. Let's put a breakdown in. So it was a lot more challenging actually writing a song without a bunch of chugs.
Really?
Yeah.
So was that now trying to tie in the guitar technique aspect into it with where you're at now? Because we've kind of made that, starting from the beginning, working up to where you are now. We're kind of getting there now, I guess, in the conversation naturally. So, how does the guitar technique, playing the guitar, and your approach and your struggles or just process of learning new things been affected by what you guys are doing now, especially with what you just said about being harder without the chugs and the breakdowns?
I think it makes me grow as a guitarist because it's challenging me to write something different than I've done in the past.
So then what things...
It's challenging me to be a better songwriter, certainly. Becoming a better guitar player, maybe, in a way.
You had to look...
Because it's just a different technique,
Did you feel like you looked at the instrument a little differently through that process?
I definitely did, because I started playing around on the neck just in different places, too. Most of our songs were always based out of just playing it open. And on the new EP, every song is based off of somewhere else on
it got
the neck.
More melodic.
Yeah.
Along the way.
And it's messing around in different keys, not always just relying on being able to go back to an open breakdown. It just made it more fun.
Mm-hmm.
Trying new things on the guitar made it way more fun.
Well, by that point too, you weren't limited to, I don't know, every band does this after a certain amount of years, where you start off, I don't know, I think part of it's like you're young and you found this cool thing. I mean, obviously there's the scene that's a part of all that type of music.
Right.
And being a part of the scene is part of the experience as a whole. Same thing with like the punk scene that I was involved in. Like, it was not just the music. Music's at the core, but there's all these other things. So, you know, that being what that is a big part of it in the beginning. Like, whatever defines that type of music and the scene based around it. But then you start wanting to grow in the same way as, like, Bring Me the Horizon we were talking about did. Like, to be what they're doing now. Which is funny because they were always, I read this, influenced by Linkin Park for a long time.
Okay.
But now, so many years later, that influence is really starting to show. Mm-hmm. So it's really more or less coming full circle.
Yeah.
And would you say that's similar for the process you went through in your songwriting? Do you feel like you're kind of getting back to the beginning at all?
Yeah, a little bit, honestly. I mean, because we, like I said, we started that band with a sound because we thought it would become popular.
Right.
And
based on what you saw around you.
It's evolved into us writing stuff we actually want to write and always have wanted to write, instead of trying so hard to do something that will become popular, because obviously that isn't a good decision to make. You're always going to be better if you're doing something that you truly want to do, rather than trying to do something just to be famous.
Yeah. Just trying to copy just because it worked for that band.
Yeah.
Hopefully it'll work for us. Like, no, do your own thing. Do what you connect with. Do what represents you.
And you're going to do it a hell of a lot better.
Yeah. You'll feel more connected to it, and performance will be better.
But you're also going to pick it apart a lot more, and it'll be way more difficult.
You know, one more... I'm trying to think, like, you know, I was asking about the guitar technique. Do you have anything else to say about, like, that? Like, as far as things you learned about the guitar at that stage that was kind of unique for you in the song, and via the songwriting process of the more recent stuff?
Just testing out, trying out new sounds. Like, even...
Like tone-wise?
Not necessarily tone-wise. I've never really changed my tone.
Okay.
But just trying new things with the instrument. Like, you know, muting the strings with the left hand and then just kind of ticking the strings with the pick. So, like, make that
tick
like in between notes to do like a riff, and then add that into the riff. Instead of making a note part of the riff, make a sound part of it.
Interesting. So then was that pretty simple for you to just start doing? Or was that something that took some sort of level of practice?
It definitely took practice just to get it sounding exactly how I wanted to within writing it.
So then at this stage, would you say that most of your practicing is just you trying to get better at playing the stuff you wrote?
Well...
And I mean stage, meaning like your whole 40 Fathoms thing, because that was where you really started becoming, progressing as a guitar player.
Well, I mean, I don't know, I'm not even really writing any metal anymore. I'm writing completely different stuff now, and just trying new things. I kind of got burned out with writing metal, honestly.
So would you say that the stuff that you're writing now is like a little easier for you to play, or so maybe you don't need that practice as much, or?
It's easier and harder. Since it's a different style, that makes it harder, and I'm still not trying to keep anything simple when it comes to chords I'm playing. I'm still trying to challenge myself and make it sound cool.
Yeah. The technical aspect, though.
Yeah.
Is that not really too much of a thing these days? Like, because in the beginning of that, you really had to kind of push yourself to get better.
Yeah.
To play that music.
Yeah. I mean...
And that was stuff that was pretty challenging. So.
Right.
Or could be.
I guess with anything I try to write, I'm always trying to challenge myself in some way. Whether it be...
But it's mostly coming from the songwriting perspective? Or?
It is.
Okay.
Yeah. But I mean, even then, a lot of it comes down to picking patterns. I always try to keep them interesting and unique.
You talking about like if you're holding a chord and you're just picking through it?
Picking the notes out of a chord.
So is it kind of melodic that you're going
melodic, but then, picking kind of fast and skipping strings here and there.
Yeah. It
all ends up getting buried in the final mix anyway.
So your skills by that point were good enough where you didn't really have to practice per se at that stage to get better at the guitar. I mean, sure, you had to practice what you were playing to play it well and perform it well for recording or live, but you didn't have to necessarily I got to improve this technique or this skill at that stage.
I could always get better, but yeah, I came to a point where I think I was happy with my skill. Yeah. It
was serving you in the way that you needed it.
Yeah.
So then, what would you say are the biggest things after, I've interviewed so many people. Part of the idea is to talk about or try and put a finger on these things that these different people have in common and seeing okay, if everybody was doing these things, then those must really be at the core. Yeah. And for you too, you're, I don't know if I'd say an exception to the rule, but I think there's definitely a lot of people out there that really struggle with learning the guitar, big time, and sometimes, and I'm not gonna say it came easy to you necessarily.
Yeah.
But you never seemed like once you decided you were going to play guitar that 13, 14 inch, then you were kind of committed to doing it, and it wasn't about whether or not you could do it. It was just you were going to do it. And so what things would you say were at the real core of you improving your skill?
Wanting to be better and wanting to someday make a living off of it. You have to be good in order to make a living off it.
Mm-hmm. So you had that source of motivation.
Yeah. That's probably it.
That's the big one?
Yeah, I think so.
Did you ever feel like you had times where you're just I can't get this though?
All the time.
Okay.
All the time.
Okay, good. So then...
That's one reason I hate recording.
Just having to
trying one riff over and over again for 30 minutes until you finally get it perfect. It's the most frustrating thing in the world.
But man, can you think of a better practice situation?
Oh no, not at all. It's great.
Perfect.
Yeah,
right?
It's perfect.
So, writing is definitely a big thing because that put you in that position. I mean, most people, they write something, they're going to want to play it in some manner of speaking, whether it's playing live for people or whether it's doing a recording.
Yeah.
And most people want it to be good.
Yeah.
But now they have that motivation there.
Yeah.
To do it well.
Exactly.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Recording
Absolutely.
Stuff. Well, because you had always done that.
Yeah.
That was always part of it.
Yeah, it's fun. I mean, it's the only way to really make it I like the finished product of it.
Yeah.
Playing it live over and over again is fun, but I like to be able to listen to it without playing it.
Mm-hmm.
So
enjoy.
Yeah.
Your own music.
It's rewarding once it's done.
Yeah. And I just think it's great if you can listen and enjoy your own music because it's a summation of everything you like about music. Mm-hmm. So why wouldn't you want to listen to your own music?
I think your band should be your favorite band.
Yeah. I never articulated it that way. But I like that. It's a good way of summarizing.
I mean,
that thought.
I don't know that any one of my bands will ever, take the cake over the Goo Goo Dolls, but I'll give an exception.
Those are big shoes to fill. So what I got from it was you definitely listened to the type of music that you wanted to play, and not just while you were learning it and writing it, but up to that point too. And you were motivated by what you were looking to accomplish, so you had like those specific goals. And I think probably you were fortunate enough, from what it sounds like, where you didn't really have to like think about those goals. You just kind of were there for you.
Right.
I think everybody's got some sort of goal. Sometimes it might just be a really like something that can be reached in a shorter period of time, like just being able to play some simple acoustic songs like Around the Fire.
Right, exactly.
And sometimes it might be at the level of I want to make money from this thing, and then everything in between.
Yeah.
But a goal nonetheless, having something specific that you want to be able to accomplish.
Yeah, you need to have a goal, otherwise you're doing it for no reason, really. I mean, well, maybe not necessarily.
Yeah, sometimes you discover you just want to get started enough because you're interested in the instrument, and you just want to you discover the goals as you go along, which is fine too.
Yeah. But to keep you motivated, I think you have to have a goal.
Yeah. Eventually.
My goal is to be a popular musician, so I'm definitely going to keep trying to get better and work towards that.
Yeah. And then you discover other goals, like, what does that mean? Because you define that more and more as you go along. You discover, like, what is it really going to take?
Yeah.
And technology was really a big thing, making use of the technology.
Yeah.
And any other things that you had mentioned out there as far as that sort of stuff goes, or was GarageBand the primary one or only one? Or?
That was really the only one. I guess I messed around with Sonar, but GarageBand that's what I've been working on for the past 8 years. So.
And then, so 2 more things. One, I want to give you a chance to talk about what you do have going on now, because I want to give you a chance to promote what you're doing.
Yeah.
But before that, because you have a dad that teaches guitar and taught guitar the whole time, like, what are your opinions on lessons?
I think they're awesome.
I think it is
a
good thing, even though you were able to do it without it.
Yeah. I think there are cases where, yeah, people get good at what they do through self-teaching, but I think lessons are a pretty important thing. Having a strong mentor who knows what they're doing face to face with you, telling you how to become better, I think that's extremely valuable.
There's definitely some people out there that really have a lot against lessons.
I don't understand why someone would say they're of no benefit, though, or they're against lessons. That doesn't make sense.
Yeah, well, I'm with you there, but
I mean,
it does happen. Well, see, the thing that's interesting to me is I've always had lessons.
Right.
And I am really amazed by some people that didn't need it and just got, like, really great at the guitar, and sometimes even faster than I did with lessons. And I look back and I'm like, man, I really needed to have lessons to get this good. And I don't know, maybe if I didn't have the lessons, maybe I still would have gotten that good. I like to think I would have.
Right.
But, like, I really, like, look back on the lessons and I'm like, man, it's a good thing I had those lessons, because otherwise I wouldn't have learned this or learned that, you know?
Yeah.
So, it's interesting to me when I come across other people that are not taking those and still learn really well.
Yeah. I don't know, yeah, I think given the right instructor, I think they're extremely beneficial.
But yet, you didn't do it.
True, but I mean, it's tough to say what situation I might be in if I didn't, or, you know, if I was in a different situation. It's impossible to say.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have learned as much as I did if I didn't have my dad around showing me what to do every now and again.
Yeah. So he
So
kind of
he
had
was an
a...
instructor in a way.
Yeah, you had
It was lessons in a way, just not the traditional sense of weekly lessons. Yeah.
We go sit face to face.
Yeah.
There's the plan, sort of thing. So, I guess that's pretty much the things that I wanted to get to. Just kind of like go through the timeline, day one to where you are now, and kind of figure out what things you did, what sort of struggles you faced, and what things helped you overcome those struggles and reach your goals. And then I like to touch on the lessons thing, because there is a big debate.
Yeah.
And I see it mostly online a lot of times.
Okay.
People post things on forums or whatever. So I don't know if those would be the people that listen to this or not, but who knows. And I even am amazed by people who don't take lessons. I'm not even like... I think that overall people that take lessons will learn faster, but it's hard to say because you got their own work ethic that's a big part of it.
Right.
And I think those who do well with, like yourself, who do well with learning on their own, even though you did have that, but I mean, aside from the formal lesson stuff, the formal lesson format, you really have to have a lot of self-motivation, self-drive.
Absolutely,
You
yeah.
know, you have to be able to push yourself when you don't have somebody else to push you. So, which I don't think is necessarily a common thing, especially at the age too, like high school. I think there's a lot of people that don't have that, or at least the ones that are learning guitar a lot of times. So, anyway, but that's kind of the reason I like to talk about that. And at this point now, you guys got that tour coming up.
Yep.
This is gonna be like the last.
This is the final tour.
One. And you chose Midwest. Just more like people that are gonna come out to shows at the Midwest.
Yeah, more for this one. We wanted to do it with friends, and one of our good friends. They're called Souls. They're from Rapid City. It's more just getting on the road one more time rather than anything promotional.
Sure.
Just have one last
Hoorah.
go. Yeah, one last hoorah, and then we'll have. Cause it's Midwest through here too. That's a 10 or 11-day tour, and then we'll have one farewell show. It's gonna be with all our friends, but just 40 Fathoms. Make it big. Have both bass players we had over the years.
Really?
Play songs from like every release we made.
That's cool. That's
so
special
play
thing.
some songs that we haven't played in years.
Yeah.
If we remember them.
Sometimes I try and play stuff I recorded a long time ago, and you'd be surprised sometimes how well you do remember it, actually.
You're surprised at some of them, like how well you do, and then you're surprised at how many of them you don't after playing them for so long. Then
Yeah.
There's songs I know I played 100 times at least in shows, but we haven't played them in a couple of years, and I'll try playing it, and I can't think of the next part that comes once I'm mid-riff.
And then, in addition, beyond that, you're talking about moving to LA and stuff, and you're kind of focusing more on the solo stuff.
Yeah. Right now, I'm just writing my own stuff.
And it's going under the name of Kalish.
Kalish.
That sounds like a lot of fun, man, and I'm really interested in hearing how it goes for you. And all right, it's getting late.
Yeah.
And we've said a lot, so let's call it.
This was fun.
That concludes our first episode. Thank you for listening. I hope this interview was helpful, insightful, and interesting. Right now, we will be doing one interview a month, so be sure to subscribe to the Guitar Power Hour YouTube page and like our Facebook page so you can catch our next episode and other future episodes. I want to thank Kyle Kaliszewski for being a part of this and sharing his experiences. Be sure to look up 40 Fathoms to catch them on their last tour that they are on now, and check out Kyle's Facebook page for his new solo project, Kalish. Also, if you are in the Denver area and are interested in learning guitar, check out our sponsor's website, rocklifemusicacademy.com, for information on their unique guitar lesson program. Catch you next time.